Feel that vibe today? Once you hit January, you're not only lining up across from another team, you're lining up across from the tiniest margin for error. And some of the stuff that swings a playoff game never shows up in the box score. Reputation is one of them. One extra little move after the whistle, one quick taunt at the wrong moment, and you've basically handed out a 15-yard coupon. And the scary part is what comes after. Once you get tagged, officials walk into the stadium already keyed in on you. Every scrap turns into a ruling. Against an offense that doesn't waste possessions, that's a problem. Which brings us straight to T.R. Tart. Our defensive tackle got hit with an $11,593 fine for taunting from that 2016 loss to the Texans at SoFi on deck 27. It stemmed from a second quarter play with Dalton Schultz. Tart ran him down after the catch, things got heated, and he crossed the line. Made contact with the face mask after Schultz tossed the ball toward the official. Tart got flagged for unnecessary roughness on the spot, and the fine came right behind it. Now, the part that makes you sit up, that was Tart's third fine this season. He was already docked $12,172 in Week 1 against the Chiefs. Yeah, the game in Sao Paulo, after a play involving Travis Kelce. Then in Week 6, he lost $17,189 for a late hit on Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. 3 incidents in 1 season. 3 moments that didn't have to happen. And I can hear some of you right now, it's his money, whatever. Wait, because that's not the full cost. Money disappears, the league's memory doesn't. The next borderline moment, the flag can come out quicker with less benefit of the doubt, because the history becomes the lens. That's the reality. You don't get judged in a vacuum when you've got a track record. Now drop all of that into where we're headed. Wild card weekend, Sunday night, Foxboro, the number 2 seeded Patriots, max pressure, and every third down feels like it's attached to somebody's season. Tart matters because he plays right on the edge in a productive way. He can eat a double team, push the pocket, mess with timing, and open lanes for everyone else to hunt. But if he goes past the edge, you don't just lose yardage, you lose composure inside a drive. And in January, a single drive can be the whole story. I already know how the comments would go. Let him play with that fire versus discipline first, hardball ball. I'm not saying take the edge away. I'm saying aim it. Hit people within the rules. End the rep, not the opponent. Because if you hand them a flag on a 3rd and long and it flips into 1st and 10, you're going to hear Gillette like a thunderclap. So where are you on this? Do you want a controlled Tart who's efficient, or a freewheeling Tart who might cost you a swing play? Keep that in your head, because the next piece of this day is about whether the secondary walks into Foxboro whole or patched together. Because while we're still chewing on the discipline conversation, the last game delivered that gut drop moment every Chargers fan recognizes instantly. First quarter, game settling in, and one of the pillars of the defense goes down. It got quiet. And no, it wasn't just a guy, it was Dante Jackson. It happened in a blink, an ankle scare. Jackson went down and he never came back in that game. And the collective reaction was basically one word: now? Especially with Nico Reed already on injured reserve, losing Jackson would have been a massive hit to a secondary that needs every piece available right now. But after the game, the word was Jackson was cleared to return, and he didn't. That detail matters. That doesn't scream can't go. That reads like caution, like the team protecting January. Nothing's been stamped in giant letters yet, but the signs are pointing toward Jackson being available against the Patriots. And if he is, the whole feel of this matchup changes. Because it's not dramatic to say this game runs through the Chargers secondary. Even with a few bumps along the way, the Bolts finished the season as one of the best pass defenses in football. 5th fewest passing yards allowed, 3rd fewest passing touchdowns. That isn't luck. That's structure. That's execution. That's Jesse Minter dialing up zone looks that mess with reads and force quarterbacks to hold the ball just a half beat longer. And Jackson has been central to it. 17 games, 12 passes defended, 4 interceptions, and you can see the confidence when he's driving on routes. Pro Football Focus graded him as the 21st best corner in the NFL this season. He's not always the loudest name on the broadcast, but he's the kind of steady piece that keeps the whole thing from wobbling when the pressure ramps up. If Jackson can't go, you're asking Benjamin St-Juste to step into a much larger role. He's been solid, absolutely, but he's played just 37% of the defensive snaps. The postseason is not where you want to be learning new chemistry live, especially not against this opponent. Because New England's passing attack is legit. Drake May had an MVP caliber season. The Patriots racked up 4,558 passing yards and led the league at 7.7 net yards per attempt. They might not have one obvious alpha receiver, but the group is dangerous. Stephon Diggs, DiMario, Douglas Keyshawn Butte. That's a room that can punish one busted coverage, one late rotation, one moment of hesitation in zone spacing. So let's keep it plain. If the Chargers are going to control this game, it starts on the back end. The defense has to keep the score in reach, while the offense finds its rhythm. Having Dante Jackson healthy could be the difference between a fourth quarter game you can steal and spending the night chasing points you never should have had to chase. So what's your call? Do you roll out a corner who's 90% in January, or play it safe and trust the scheme to cover the gap? Sit with that for a second, because the tone shifts again. And just when you think the week has already hit peak tension, someone says exactly what's on their mind. No filter, no softening it. That was Tony Jefferson after the 19-3 loss to the Broncos. Denver's celebrating 14 wins, the number 1 seed in the AFC, a bye, home field advantage, and Jefferson's walking toward the locker room on a completely different wavelength. They suck, bro. That was the quote. Straight up. No respect. Jefferson made it clear he's not buying the aura. And yeah, on paper, calling a 14-3 team bad makes you do a double take. But context matters. Denver won, sure. They also won against a Chargers team that rested a lot of starters. Jim Harbaugh sat Justin Herbert, Derwin, James Jr., Khalil, Mac Tooley, Tuipolo 2. That game wasn't about flexing in Week 18. It was about protecting the playoff run. And even with that, Denver's offense didn't look like some unstoppable machine. They finished with 240 total yards, 13 first downs, and found the end zone once. A big chunk of the scoring came off Will Lutz's leg. Their defense did its job against Trey Lance and a backup-heavy offense, forced turnovers, held the Bolts to 3 points. But that "we're terrifying" kind of dominance? It didn't exactly jump off the screen. Maybe that's what Jefferson was pointing at. Maybe it's just personal. Either way, he said it. Now connect the dots. With the Bills winning and the Chargers losing, the Bolts slid into the number 7 seed. That sends them to Foxboro for the wild card against New England in primetime. And there's a twist underneath it. If the Chargers pull the upset on Sunday night, they become the lowest remaining seed in the AFC, meaning they'd go right back to Denver for the divisional round. That's why Jefferson's line isn't just noise, it's fuel. It's a guy already thinking about the next step before the current one is even secured. And that kind of confidence can spread through a locker room fast, especially in the postseason, where belief is a real weapon. Sure, there's risk. Quotes like that end up on the wall. It becomes bulletin board material. But it also tells you something about this team. They aren't intimidated, and they're not walking into January like they're extras in someone else's movie. They want the pen. So let me ask you, do you want a team that stays quiet and respectful, or a team that walks in believing nobody is untouchable? Hold on to that, because now we zoom out to how the league is framing this matchup. That's where Adam Schefter comes in. He made a point that sounds simple, but it's real. The AFC playoff picture feels different this year. No Patrick Mahomes, no Joe Burrow. 2 gravitational forces missing from the bracket. And when that happens, the whole conference opens up. It stops being about protecting the old order and becomes about who's ready to step into the space. In that setup, Schefter singled out one matchup as especially intriguing: Chargers versus Patriots. Not just because of the seed, not just because it's Sunday night, but because of what it represents. Justin Herbert versus Drake May, 2 quarterbacks that could be the next wave in the AFC. Different styles, same idea. The talent and processing to turn this into a spotlight game. And Bolt fam, this is where you lock in. Herbert isn't walking in as a promise. He's walking in with something to answer. You've heard it all. Great talent, no January. Stats without playoff moments. Where's the signature win? Well, this is a stage where a narrative can move in one night, in one building, against one of the top seeds. May is riding momentum. Big season, big production, home crowd, confidence. But with that comes pressure. Because at this point, it's not surprise, it's expectation. And expectation is heavy. especially when the defense across from you is built to take away the first red and force you to live in that uncomfortable gray. What Schefter is really pointing to is that the AFC is turning a page, and this wildcard game isn't just survival, it's a statement. It's a chance to show the Harbaugh era in Los Angeles isn't some distant idea, it's a present tense threat. So when you stack it all up, the picture is sharp. Discipline sitting right on the edge, a secondary trying to walk in healthy, a locker room talking like it wants smoke, and a spotlight that could reshape how people talk about Herbert going forward. Every detail matters, every decision echoes. This isn't just another wild card, it's a maturity test for a team that's tired